Caitlin Clark effect. Yeah, StubHub started seeing this really early as soon as she announced she was going to be in the WNBA draft. In fact, StubHub says they've seen a more than 90% increase in interest in ticket sales this season compared to last.
It was supposed to be the WNBA's Cinderella story, a tale of a generational talent who would finally bring the league the mainstream attention it had deserved for decades. But in a twist that nobody saw coming, the very star who was single-handedly rewriting the record books is now at the center of a bitter and escalating Cold War between two of the most powerful organizations in women's sports. This isn't just about basketball anymore. It's about marketing jealousy and a monumental failure to recognize a cultural phenomenon when it was standing right in front of them.
It's denied by Boston. Wheeler finds Clark from the logo.
Look at Wheeler staring to the right side, knows who's there, drop pass behind. Could be the deepest shot we've seen Caitlin Clark make as a...
And the latest chapter of this drama didn't happen on a hardwood court, but on the perfectly manicured greens of a professional golf course. What you are about to see is a masterclass in how to build a superstar, and a devastating expose of how one league fumbled a bag so badly they might never get it back. Before we get into the shocking details of this growing sports rivalry, make sure you're subscribed and have notifications on. This story is developing fast, and you won't want to miss what happens next. When Caitlin Clark declared for the WNBA draft, the effect was instantaneous and astronomical. Ticket vendor StubHub reported an unbelievable surge, with interest skyrocketing by more than 90% overnight. She wasn't just entering the league, she was bringing an entire new audience with her, and she delivered on that hype in ways nobody could have predicted. Her rookie season with the Indiana Fever wasn't just good, it was historically dominant. She became the first player ever to sink over 100 three-pointers, while dishing out more than 300 assists in a single campaign. Averaging 19.2 points, 8.4 assists, and 5.7 rebounds per game, she didn't just play, she performed, she entertained, she captivated. Iconic moments, like draining a shot from the logo, became instant classics, shared across social media millions of times. She reshaped how a generation of sports fans viewed women's basketball, turning casual viewers into devoted fans, and causing TV ratings to spike by 30% whenever she stepped onto the court.
Clark brought her golf game to the LPGA Tour today, playing in a Pro-Am that attracted a bigger crowd than the tour often gets. Clark played at the back nine at Pelican Golf Club with Nelly Korda. She's the #1 player in women's golf.
The league had hit the jackpot. They had their LeBron, their Curry, a true golden goose whose brand power could have elevated the entire sport for years to come. But then, the cracks began to show. Despite this record-shattering performance, the league's recognition felt strangely muted, almost as if they were hesitant to fully lean into the hurricane of excitement she generated. The most glaring example came when she was awarded the Rookie of the Year trophy. Instead of a packed stadium roaring its approval, the ceremony felt quiet, almost hollow, presented in a nearly empty arena with a distinct lack of fanfare.
Hey, when I called your name to the stage as the #1 pick in this year's draft, and I know the best is yet to come. So, congratulations, Caitlin. You are the 2024 Kia WNBA Rookie of the Year.
It was a bizarrely underwhelming celebration for a player of her world-changing caliber, reminiscent of a quiet dinner for a Nobel Prize winner, when they should have thrown a city-wide festival. This wasn't just about one ceremony. It was symptomatic of a broader pattern. While Clark was breaking viewership records, the league's own social media channels often seemed to distribute their attention with a measured, almost calculated equity, sometimes failing to highlight her historic moments with the explosive prominence they warranted. Insiders began to whisper about a growing frustration within the WNBA offices, a conflict between the undeniable commercial force Clark represented and a long-standing institutional philosophy.
Clark's golf debut just made me so upset with the WNBA because the LPGA just did everything that the WNBA should have been doing this season. They did it all correct in literally.
Some reports suggested that the league, under Commissioner Kathy Engelbert, has long prioritized a message of unity over individual stardom, a mindset forged during leaner years when collective bargaining and solidarity were paramount for survival. While this sounds good in theory and practice, it seemed to mean missing a massive opportunity to leverage Clark's crossover appeal for the benefit of every team and player in the league. There were rumors of veteran players within the league feeling that Clark was receiving too much spotlight, that her fame was overshadowing the collective work of its athletes, a sentiment that created a subtle but palpable undercurrent of tension. Instead of capitalizing on a once-in-a-lifetime talent who was single-handedly expanding the pie for everyone, the league appeared hesitant, almost nervous, to fully embrace her as the face of the WNBA.
For the WNBA to do, like, have you seen it when an NBA player or a football player, like, goes to an NBA game or goes to wherever and they'll be in the comments or they'll just say something, like, something cute? This was the perfect time for the WNBA to also be posting.
This perceived neglect was starting to turn what should have been pure admiration into a simmering pot of tension, leaving fans and analysts alike to ask one simple, frustrating question. Why was the league seemingly afraid of its own success? Meanwhile, as the WNBA hesitated, another league was rolling out the red carpet, showcasing a masterclass in modern sports marketing that left no doubt about how to handle a transcendent figure. Caitlin Clark, an amateur golfer, stepped onto the course of the LPGA's Annika Pro-Am, and the reaction was night and day. The moment she arrived, she was treated not as a novelty, but as a bona fide sports superstar whose presence was an honor. The LPGA didn't just allow her to participate. They built the entire event's promotional framework around her.
She did not lack an audience. This is the most relatable thing I think you and I and most people in our audience can go through. If you've ever played in a Pro-Am, you know how nervy it is. Can you imagine doing that?
They paired her strategically with Nelly Korda, the #1 ranked female golfer in the world, a move that was far from a random draw. This wasn't a coincidence. It was a marketing masterstroke designed to create an iconic duo, pairing the established queen of the sport with its newest and most electrifying ambassador. The league ensured maximum exposure, featuring them in primetime coverage and flooding social media with content that celebrated Clark's participation as a major event. Crowds flocked to Pelican Golf Club in numbers the tour seldom sees, all just to watch Clark play, creating an atmosphere more commonly associated with tournaments' final round than a casual pro-am. And she didn't disappoint, displaying a level of skill that shocked the golfing world. Golf legends and officials were left in awe, not just of her athleticism, but of her poise and genuine love for the game. Nelly Korda herself gushed about the experience, calling Clark incredible, kind, and genuine, and marveling at her ability to draw people in, highlighting the symbiotic relationship between the two stars. Even Jay Monahan, the powerful commissioner of the PGA Tour, was impressed, publicly praising her competitive fire and her shocking skill, especially for someone who had only been playing seriously for a year and a half. He boldly stated that she was going to be a part of the sport for years to come, a statement that resonated as both a compliment and a challenge to other sports leagues. The LPGA understood the assignment. They saw a superstar and they acted like it, recognizing that her star power didn't threaten their sport, but instead poured jet fuel on its growth potential. The contrast between the two leagues became impossible to ignore, playing out in real time across television screens and social media feeds. It was a tale of two marketing strategies, and the public was taking notice, acting as a jury that delivered a swift and decisive verdict. While the WNBA seemed to be downplaying their biggest asset, the LPGA was showcasing her as a main event, understanding that in the attention economy, you must amplify your brightest lights, not dim them. Social media erupted with fans and sports commentators pointing out the stark, almost embarrassing difference. One viral tweet perfectly captured the sentiment, noting that the LPGA had posted more about Caitlin Clark in that single week than the WNBA had throughout her entire rookie season, a damning indictment of the basketball league's promotional strategy. The LPGA's coverage was live, vibrant, and celebratory, making every fan feel like they were witnessing a historic crossover moment. They positioned the event not just as a golf tournament, but as a celebration of women's sports powered by its most electric athlete, a narrative that was both inspiring and highly effective. They demonstrated exactly what happens when a league leans fully into a player's crossover appeal. You get massive crowds, frenzied media attention, and a buzz that transcends the sport itself, attracting sponsors and new viewers who may have never considered watching golf before. For WNBA fans, it was a frustrating spectacle, a painful, what could have been scenario unfolding before their eyes. It was everything they wanted their own league to do. The primetime specials, the targeted ad campaigns, the social media blitzes, being executed flawlessly by another organization. The Annika Pro-Am wasn't just a success for the LPGA. It was a public relations disaster for the WNBA, exposing a deep-seated institutional failure to understand modern stardom and how to harness its power for the greater good of the sport. So, why would a league seemingly resist its own savior? The reasons are complex and layered in unspoken tensions, rooted in the league's long and often difficult history. Some insiders point to a lingering resentment among a faction of veteran players who have spent years building the league through sheer grit and determination, only to see a rookie catapulted to a level of fame and mainstream media attention they can only dream of. This isn't necessarily about Clark personally, but about the perception that her stardom was achieved too quickly, or that it overshadowed the foundational work of others who fought for years for modest gains in recognition and pay. The intense and sometimes toxic online discourse between segments of Clark's new fans and established WNBA supporters has undoubtedly exacerbated this tension, creating a defensive posture within some parts of the league's ecosystem. There's also the league's historical caution, a mindset developed over decades of fighting for stability. For years, the WNBA has carefully cultivated a specific image of team-first unity, and the explosive, sometimes divisive nature of superstardom can be difficult to manage within that framework. Pushing one player too hard can create perceived imbalance within team dynamics and alienate a dedicated segment of the fan base that values the collective over the individual. Furthermore, the intense spotlight on Clark's rivalry with other rookies like Angel Reese, while great for business, also forced the league to navigate a complex social landscape where favoring one narrative could be misinterpreted. But this caution has now crossed over into negligence, a failure to adapt to a new reality. The league finds itself grappling with an impossible question. How do you promote the league as a whole when one individual is so clearly responsible for its explosive growth? In trying to answer this with an outdated playbook, they have fumbled the one thing that could have secured their financial and cultural future for a generation, creating a schism that other, more agile leagues are now eagerly exploiting. The impact of Clark's crossover appeal is creating a ripple effect that is benefiting everyone except, ironically, the league that employs her. We are witnessing a fascinating economic and cultural phenomenon where a single athlete's stardom is redistributing value across the entire landscape of women's sports. Major brands from every sector, from iconic sportswear giants to global financial institutions and consumer tech companies, are lining up to partner with her, seeing her not just as an athlete, but as a gateway to a massive, engaged, and previously untapped audience. These partnerships aren't just checks written to Clark. They represent millions of dollars in marketing spend that now feature women's sports prominently in primetime ad slots, something that was a rarity before her ascent. This influx of corporate investment validates the commercial power of women's athletics in a way that decades of advocacy struggled to achieve. Furthermore, the LPGA is enjoying a seismic surge in interest from basketball fans who would never have ordinarily tuned into a golf tournament. Television ratings for the events she attends are seeing noticeable bumps, and ticket sales for Pro MS, once a niche attraction, are suddenly in high demand. The entire ecosystem of women's sports, from collegiate programs to professional leagues like the PWHL for hockey, stands to benefit from this elevated spotlight as a rising tide lifts all boats. This makes the WNBA's position look even more isolated and counterproductive. They're sitting on a gold mine but refusing to dig, seemingly paralyzed by internal politics or flawed strategic vision, while other leagues and entities are happily striking oil all around them. This situation forces us to confront an unspoken and uncomfortable truth that simmers beneath the surface of this entire controversy, a topic often discussed in hushed tones on sports talk shows and social media forums, but rarely addressed directly by the institutions involved. The landscape of the WNBA and its deeply passionate, loyal fan base has a specific cultural, social, and demographic history. For years, the league has proudly stood as a beacon of representation and community for Black women, LGBTQ+ individuals, and social progressives, building a unique identity rooted in social justice and collective empowerment. Caitlin Clark's arrival, and the particular nature of her record-breaking fame emanating from her record-shattering career at a predominantly white university, has undoubtedly shifted some of those demographics. She has attracted a new and often different audience, a more mainstream, traditionally casual sports fan who may not have been previously engaged with the WNBA's established culture. This sudden, massive influx has created a cultural friction that is impossible to ignore. Some longtime fans feel a sense of territorial whiplash, watching as a new player becomes the central narrative, while veteran stars who have carried the league for years receive what feels like a fraction of the coverage. This has led to quiet speculation among sports analysts and fans about whether there is an unspoken reluctance at some levels within the league's ecosystem, from certain segments of the media to some within the player pool and administration, to fully embrace a white superstar who is fundamentally changing the league's composition and commercial appeal. It raises a critical and deeply complex question. Is the league's hesitant marketing a simple case of bureaucratic missteps and a clumsy adherence to an all-in team philosophy, or is it something more profound? Is it a subconscious struggle for the very soul of the league that is now navigating an unexpected and overwhelming wave of change, terrified of alienating its core base in pursuit of a massive new one? The fear may be that in championing the athlete who brings in the new world, they might risk losing the soul of the old one, creating a dilemma for which there is no perfect, easy answer, but whose consequences are being felt every day in missed opportunities and growing frustration. The question now is, what happens next? The LPGA has shown the WNBA exactly how it's done, providing a masterclass in agility and strategic promotion. They have provided a clear, effective blueprint for how to celebrate a transcendent talent, how to market her to the world, and how to transform every single appearance into a must-see event that captivates a national audience. The ball is now firmly in the WNBA's court, and the entire sports world is watching to see if they will make the right play. Will they learn from this humbling lesson and finally wake up to the new reality of sports stardom in the 21st century? Will they finally allocate the resources and creative energy to build monumental promotional campaigns worthy of the historic talent they have in Caitlin Clark? Campaigns that match the sheer scale of the interest she generates? Or will they continue to play it safe, clinging to an outdated model that prioritizes a fragile equilibrium over explosive growth, all while watching their biggest star elevate every other sport she touches? The future of the league, its financial stability, its media rights value, and its place in the mainstream cultural conversation may very well depend on the answer. This is more than a rivalry. It's the ultimate test of vision and adaptability. We are at a generational inflection point, and the choices made now will echo for years. Will the WNBA choose to build a dynasty around its brightest star, or will it remain a passive bystander in its own revolution? Right now, the evidence is clear. One league is passing with flying colors, seamlessly integrating star power with sport, while the other is on the verge of failing spectacularly, risking everything by misunderstanding the moment they have been waiting for their entire history. What do you think the WNBA should do? Was the LPGA's treatment of Caitlin Clark a genius move, or did the WNBA have a valid reason for their approach? Let us know your hottest takes in the comments below. And if you want to stay updated on this ongoing sports drama, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next video. Thanks for watching.